Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. We got some new numbers on the economy. They are not looking good. We've also got a new pardon from Trump, this one of a corrupt Democrat. So a little bit of bipartisan corruption. Not that that's an unusual thing here in Washington. We'll take a look at that one. This one impacts the House because this is a representative of the House who was indicted anyway. A lot of potential implications there. We've got new photos and videos released by the House Oversight Committee of Epstein's Island. We will show you that. They are also attempting to get more financial records that they could reveal to the public. So some significant developments there. We're taking a look at the political fallout after this Tennessee election was closer than comfort, I guess, for Republicans in that special, and what they are looking at heading into the midterms. There's a lot of Republican sort of maneuvering. Mike Johnson's getting thrown under the bus, so we'll look at that. Hillary Clinton and others letting it all hang out on Israel. CNN is partnering with Kelshi as we descend further into this capitalist hellscape, and we've got some new details on those boat strikes as Admiral Bradley does head to the Hill today. So some significant movement there as well.
That's right. Thank you to everybody who's been signing up, breakingpoints.com. If you can support our work over here, become a premium member. By the way, it's been very cool to see all of your Spotify Wrapped. If we were in your top, we did record a little video for all of you, and so thank you all very much. It is very, very cool to see, and we were looking, we achieved significant growth, actually, some 130% increase, apparently, in our podcast. I was looking at the stats that they sent over to us, so thank you all very much. And that was just on the Spotify platform. So if you are listening to this as a podcast, please rate us 5 stars, share it with a friend. Really helps other people find the show. Apparently, a lot of you did that this year, so thank you all very much. Seriously, it does mean a lot. And it's very cool to see the numbers, and it's also kind of fun to see what other people listen to. We have a very eclectic fan base. I could see people listen to comedy, only news. It's kind of amazing.
My last few months, it turns out, were very dominated by K-pop demon hunters.
Really? That's really fun. You know,
in fairness to me, my 8-year-old is also listening on my phone. So
that's the funny thing is all my songs are just songs that the kid will go to sleep to. So, right? So it's all "You're Welcome" from Moana. It was my #1 song. I've moved
out of the Disney age and into the K-pop demon hunters era. So there
For
you
me,
go.
also, my podcast listening moments went down by 40%. So that's what fatherhood has done. It's destroyed my podcast listening time. It's okay. It's all worth it. Anyway, thank you all very much. Seriously, very gratifying. I know YouTube has its own Wrapped function as well. It's also cool to see us on that. So let's go ahead and start with the economy. Some troubling job numbers coming from ADP with an immediate reaction here from CNBC summarizing how this was a major, unexpected, actually, job loss that hit Wall Street. Let's take a listen.
Big miss on the ADP payrolls. The private payroll company saying private payroll shed 32,000 workers in November. That's the 4th negative number in the past 6 months for this series. Take a look here. The estimate was for 40,000, so the street was off on this one. But the big story here, and I'll show you more detail on this, is what's happening with small business, down 120,000. Medium and large business doing okay, up 51 and 39,000 respectively. But take a look at this chart here. Virtually all of the job losses have come from small business, which has been negative in 6 of 7 months since April. Without those losses, ADP numbers would actually be positive. But you can't get rid of it. You can't exclude small business. At least according to ADP, additional weakness in the job market and small business getting hammered. And there is some information that some of this may be coming from being hammered by the tariffs.
So there you go. You can see he's saying some indication in terms of the tariffs, but more importantly was the miss in terms of the ADP numbers, the 4th negative number in the past 6 months, and the estimate was for that plus 40,000. Let's go and put A2 up here on the screen. Some interesting kind of firm by firm data. Actually, what you see is that the ADP losses is that most industries are doing layoffs. The only ones still hiring are hospitality and healthcare. Wow. Actually, that explains a lot, right? So healthcare, we have this exploitive, insane, destructive system. Hospitality is entirely dominated by the top 10%. And so that means that the rich can continue to travel. Again, if you're a sucker for this type of lifestyle pornography, the Wall Street Journal every other day is always like, big hotels are booming than ever. Or like, why Ritz-Carlton is more in demand than any other. I always click on them and I always read them because there is just something to this like economy where you got top 10% who spend 50% of the money. And so 90% of people overall not doing either as well and not spending nearly as much. And so that, I think it's called K-shaped, right, in terms of the economy. But what you can see very specifically is that those smaller to medium-sized firms, really the backbone of American innovation and of community, is really hurting. So there was a 1 to 19 employees, so something like our company has a reduction of some 46,000, and then the 20 to 49 employees down by 74,000. So these smaller firms are really having trouble. Larger companies are still hiring, but quote, a tough year for small business due to tariffs and more selective spending from lower and middle class consumers. And I think that, really hits it home is the lower middle class consumer and other. And if you really think about, the Amazons of the world, the Googles, and even retail that goes after either everybody and or can selectively make it so that they're very desirable to that high income family, they're going to be fine, in something like this, in addition to the big business. But if you're a smaller or medium sized firm, maybe you do like services or something like that, that goes to everybody, not necessarily to the top 10%. That's exactly who's struggling in this. And it sucks, right? Because if you think about smaller, medium-sized, maybe brick and mortar businesses in towns and others where, let's say, your income is below 150,000 per year in terms of the median, that's going to be a tough place to do business.
Yeah, well, it makes sense when you think about the tariff impact. When we first had quote unquote Liberation Day, we covered a number of these small businesses that were like, I have no idea how we're going to be able to survive, because even though they had a profitable business, a lot of these small businesses, like, they're living sort of month to month. They don't have a giant cash reserve so that they can wait until Trump figures out what the hell is going on, or the courts get involved and he changes the rates and makes it so that you can sustain yourself. In that time, you're bleeding, if not completely dying. So it makes sense on that level. It also makes sense on the level that you're not going to be the one that gets to go to the Mar-a-Lago dinner or gets to offer your gold bar in the White House to be able to be saved by the king. So, I think that's another element of why small businesses are the ones being decimated in particular. They're also not likely to be the ones participating in the great AI revolution that is propping up so much of the economy at this point. So, we're really starting to see the effects. And the other thing, we normally in the past wouldn't have necessarily covered the ADP jobs report because we would have relied on the government numbers.
Yeah, right.
They don't put the numbers down anymore, number one. I mean, during the shutdown, we didn't get anything. And number two, I don't think anyone has any confidence in these numbers whatsoever. So that has made the ADP numbers that much more significant. There's another aspect of this, of course, which is the political aspect. How is the administration messaging all of this? Earlier in the week, Trump said that affordability is a Democratic con job. So that's what the language coming from the president of the United States. And you've got Scott Bessent, who has now made this claim, I think, a couple of times, that the best thing you can do, and we covered this previously on the show, the best thing you can do if you're worried about inflation is move to a red state, because inflation is lower in red states. Turns out that is not true whatsoever, and he got called on it live. Let's take a look at that.
People in her district are having an affordability problem. I should have said, well, she's in a red state, affordability is worse. In a blue state, affordability is worse than a blue state.
We can debate that, but keep going.
No, there's no debate. The number 50 basis points higher inflation, the 10 highest, inflation rates, they are in blue cities, but
just so you know, because I went to look at this, this is the Joint Economic Committee, since 2021. The highest inflation of the past 4 years has been in red states, especially Florida.
I'm talking about current.
Current. Not over the past 4 years.
Right. Today.
Okay. I would think 4 years would be a reasonable trend line to look at.
Just utterly absurd. I mean, the thing is stupid to start with. Like, just uproot your whole life and move somewhere. We're not going to do anything. But if you're worried about inflation, go ahead and uproot your whole life, find a new job, sell your house. Good luck getting a mortgage at the same rate, and move to a different place that has slightly lower inflation, because we're certainly not doing anything for you. And then even on the merits of that he's getting called out that, like, that's not actually really even true, unless you have this, like, very slow, well, in the past 36 days in cities only, then this actually works out. Just ridiculous.
It's just so stupid. It's
yeah.
one of those where it's like, dude, I mean, this is why him and there's a few others, Kevin Hassett and others, like they are just like the Biden officials who would go out in 2022 and they'd be like, actually, we're tackling inflation, Bidenomics, and it was met with it was met with ridicule, I think correctly, not just by Wall Street, but by, I think, everyday consumers. And yeah, I mean, fundamentally, what exactly is the message? Like living in a red state is better? Like, yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends on what you value, right? I mean, that's the whole point of living in different states.
Yeah.
We all have, every state gets to do things a little bit differently. For example, if you're in Florida, you can live in a boomer hell where they want to reduce property taxes. So, that's your right as Americans. You can do that if you would like. You certainly can, and then you can also live in what's the highest tax state? California. Some people, they're like, sunshine is worth it to live with a bunch of fentanyl bums who are living around me, no criminal justice or anything. That's fine. You can do that if you want to. That's America. All right. So it's just one of those where we get to choose.
By the way, after Zoran's election, there was the rich people are going to leave New York. Apparently, luxury real estate sales are actually up in New York. So everybody relax.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily
the rich people are staying in New York City, if that was a concern for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was not never a particular guy. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the global rich in New York City or Los Angeles or any of these other places. But yeah, I mean, this is part of what's so stupid, I think, broadly around the thing. And it also just gets to the being out of touch. Importantly with the economy, whenever it comes to these officials, affordability is a con job. Just uproot and move if you would like. It also just gets to the point of, what we always talk about with Trump is division, 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 and he's used that very, very effectively. But the thing is right now is that this idea of, in terms of the red state versus the blue, trying to pit people against each other, what I think that misunderstands is that on economic questions, people are actually a lot more united than ever before. They're really not in a war, in the same way they might be on culture or anything else. Like they are pretty united in saying that housing and inflation are the two pillar problems, and that's why I think that rhetoric like that really doesn't land, and it actually makes light of a very serious situation, no matter where you live. And that's part of where the division strategy, which is very effective on culture, I don't think it lands even close on economy or on immigration. Right? It's just not the same issue set.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because certainly at other times, like when Trump was in his initial political rise back in 2015, 2016, there was more of a sense of like the cities are doing great and the rest of the country is getting screwed.
Yeah.
Now the sense is everybody's getting screwed. We're all getting screwed. And, the rich people are writing the rules. They're rigging the system. They're sucking up everything. They're doing their AI thing. They're, looking at being trillionaires. And meanwhile, we'll get to CNN now doing deals with Kalshi so that they can, get you further addicted to gambling and exploit and abuse you even more. Like we're just at this point of absurdity in terms of where the capitalist system is. So, all the stress signs are there. People are screaming loud and clear. We do not feel like this economy is going well. We don't think it's going to go well. We are not hopeful about our future. We're not hopeful about our kids' future. We don't feel like you're focused on the things that you said you would be in the campaign. Now, whether or not they were right to think he'd really be great on business, I think it's reasonable to I think it's reasonable for an ordinary person to be like, you know what, the economy was better under his first administration. He's a business guy. He's going to be focused on this. It's going to be better for me and my family. And to feel a genuine sense of disappointment and frankly betrayal that has not been his focus. And then the audacity to tell you that affordability is a con job made up by the Democrats while you're looking at him hanging out with Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and these other characters, giving them the world while they build out their data centers and spike your electricity bills. Yeah, you're going to be disgusted, and the Republican Party is going to pay a massive political price for abandoning people at a time when they are increasingly feeling the squeeze. These ADP numbers are just one more sign that, there was a lot of hopium from from MAGA insiders here that you and Emily both were speaking to, that they felt like, we're going to do this tariff thing. There's going to be some pain, but, a year from now, things are going to be turning around. When we're going into midterms, people are going to be feeling like things are great. Now it seems like even they've abandoned that to, falling back on, well, just move to a different state if you feel bad about things the way they are. Or, just pretend like none of this is a problem. Affordability is a con job. Just deny the reality that you're living literally every single day.
On the tariff question, if you think about it, it was paired specifically with it's going to make America richer. It's also going to bring back business. That has just simply not been the case. Why? Because as we said a myriad times, there's no problem with tariffs. Tariffs are fine. I support tariffs. You use them as a tool you pair it with a lot, not just industrial policy, but a concerted, bureaucratic, strategic effort that says these are the types of things that we want to. Now, actually, in some ways, they have done that. It's just to the benefit of only the AI industry. But if that bubble pops, that's a big problem. And as I just showed,
it's not something that really benefits. I mean, there's some construction, like the construction industry is doing okay because of the data center build out. But in terms of long-term jobs, those data centers require like 50 people.
Yeah,
it's minimal.
Technology is a power law business. The wealth vastly accumulates to the founders and to the employees.
Right.
That is literally the story of Silicon Valley and of software engineering. That's why it makes them all filthy rich. That's fine. But the point is not to say that that should be the basis of the entire United States economy. And in fact, if you want, industrial policy or something, you want to be able to support the other types of businesses, to industries that don't have power law returns necessarily, but are really important to your overall industrial base. Things like cars, things like, metals. Again, we don't even have to be woke about it. Oil refineries, if we want to, nuclear power plants. All of these are highly capital-intensive businesses, but the returns are much more broad-based across society, and they actually help lift everybody up together. We don't have a lot of that, and so that's where I think the big failure is. And I also look. It's December 4th. Trump has literally almost been president for a year. What is it, 11 months now? I think almost exactly to the day. So you've been president for 11 months, and the same thing. If you think back to Biden, even Obama, things very much soured on his term by this point in people's presidencies. Bill Clinton is the same thing. It's very difficult actually to turn around once you're at this point. You can become kind of a manager and just hope things go on the upswing, but that's not their style. And so in the absence of that, you're going to have issues. The last thing I do want to mention is about this tariff stuff, because this could create a new fresh round of craziness. Let's go to the next part, please. This is Besson at that same conference said that the Trump administration will be able to replicate tariffs even if it loses a Supreme Court decision. So as we had said here before, it's pretty clear that the Supreme Court is very skeptical of the Trump tariffs and may even require refunds. But there are other longer solutions where they would be able to implement the same tariffs. They just have to go through more of a bureaucratic process, which takes a little bit longer. But he's saying that they are committed to doing that. I'm only saying this because it means that you could have similar Liberation Day style craziness in our markets and in our economy. But this would be 6 to 8 months from now, which just happens to be around the time of the November elections.
It also means that even if the Supreme Court rules, then there's still no certainty.
Right.
It's not like, okay, well, we can't do this, so we're just not doing this. Maybe they just abandon it. That's possible. Or maybe they try to, go through a different process. Maybe, oh my God, they could actually work with Congress, but I don't think Congress is going to give them what they want at this point, because Republicans were never all on board with this direction to begin with. And now Donald Trump is significantly weakened after the, off-year election losses. One last thing to mention, you're talking about, okay, well, what was promised with the tariffs? Like, what was the argument? The argument, as we covered at the time, was incoherent and all over the place, right? Sometimes it was about fentanyl. Sometimes it was about, I'm mad at Brazil over Bolsonaro's treatment. Sometimes the sort of, if you give them the most charitable reading, it was like, we're going to bring back American manufacturing. We're going to have these good, middle-class factory jobs are going to be back in America. Well, we've now had our 9th straight month of manufacturing decline. So, now maybe, I guess you could say, but over time, but there's just no policy put in place that is going to actually rebuild or encourage U.S. manufacturing. In fact, the fallout has been exactly what we predicted, which is that it's going to create a lot more uncertainty and actually create incentives to move that manufacturing elsewhere or do layoffs, et cetera. And that is what we are seeing. And that's a shame because, under the Biden administration, got all kinds of gripes with them. We've named them all here on the show. Some of their industrial policy was actually working. There was actually an increase in manufacturing activity. The first time in the modern era that coming out of a recession, you actually had more manufacturing jobs created. The story of the last 30, 40 years has been whenever there's a downturn, manufacturing jobs go away and they don't come back. So they had through this policy, that's why when we say like tariffs can work when they're done right, when they're targeted, when they're paired with industrial policy, Biden was nibbling around the edges of that and it was showing some results. And now all of that has been completely wiped away and we're going in the polar opposite direction and betting the entire economy on this AI future data center build out and inflating this gigantic bubble that is either going to pop and be a disaster or come to fruition and also be a disaster. I mean, they're trying to rip up the entire social contract. Again, not exactly what was sold on the presidential campaign to people, and yet here we are.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.